All right, we're still with our main discussion in regards to the future of mobile money users in Uganda, or the future of mobile money as a whole block as it is. We're on to the new Payment Systems Act, the new National Systems Payment Act of 2020 that is also regulating mobile money. Among which factors we want to understand what does it mean for an account to be redundant, and why is it rendered redundant? What can you do to actually regain your account, and among others. Those are some of the things that we're still discussing. And with me here, I still have Council Chizito Louise, and we're still going on with the conversation. Now first, Council, let's first go back to the 9 month. I want to understand, after the 9 month of the account being redundant, what should the person do? What are those things that this person has to do if I told your account is redundant? If I told you, now after 9 months, it is redundant, you want to go back and follow up, what are the first things you have to have in mind before you go?
But first of all, before you even reach that level of going to the central bank, under the law, the mobile money companies are supposed to notify you that your account is going to be rendered redundant, ABC, and do ABC and D, or come to our offices or do ABC and D. That is a month, on the 8th month of the 9 month. When that is done, and then before they deactivate or render your account redundant, they are also supposed to give another notification. Now, we're in between. As you get all those messages, you have to now interface with the company. But in the event that maybe you went to the US, you are doing a 9 month course, and in those 9 months maybe you left some money here, and you didn't see any of those notifications, then there you can actually, if the money has been remitted to the central bank, now that's where the technicalities are. Even the people in the practice are still waiting for those regulations to come out, because now there is no clear procedure on how you will get that money, but there's a general procedure you can follow. Okay. You can write to the Payment Systems Department of the Bank of Uganda. You can do it yourself, or if you feel you're going to meet people who are going to be stubborn, then you can maybe seek the intervention of legal counsel to find out how to notify these people, how to claim your money, because it's claimable.
Okay.
And then basically that's what you can do. But when you read the regulations, that is why now there is some gray area. Oh. They don't even elucidate so much on it. So it's just prudent practice. What would you do in the event that they have taken your money to the center? Okay.
Now let's imagine I have 3 million. I had my 3 million and I left the country, maybe, and I didn't receive the notifications like you said. And I return when I really need to use this money. In my imagination, I thought if I go to, let me say, customer service centers of these telecommunication companies, it would do me help. Is it a right way to do things?
Yes, you could go there, because at the end of the day, those customer agents will again double as the agents of that so-called subsidiary that was created. So yeah, you can go there, but it again will depend on your circumstances. There are some things that may be out of their control that they may not handle. Because again, there are mobile money agents regulations. There is what they can do, what they cannot do. So if their principal has terminated your account, then the agent who's operating on the direction of the principal may not do much. So again, they redirect you to maybe the headquarters somewhere around Kampala here, and then you reconcile and rectify the issue. So the agent, it will depend on what your circumstances are. But maybe even a phone call directly to the customer care agents could help. But I think at some point you may need to go there. It will depend. And this is on a case-by-case basis. There is no magic bullet. So it depends on your circumstances at the time. At some point, yes, you can go to the agent. At some point, no. But it depends on the seriousness of the issue. Exactly.
Okay. Now, I didn't get the figures right at the beginning as we were heading into the break in regards to the money that was. According to the reports, that the dormant mobile money accounts are holding in excess of over 17 billion.
Yes.
Yes, and I said 17 million. Rather, it is 17 billion Ugandan shillings. Is that money still there?
It should be. It should be. At least it should be. I don't know whether it is there. But at least there, financial records indicate that money
is there.
Should be there.
Because with the cases I know of Uganda, we may think the money is there, but it is already in circulation. And when the telecommunications companies obviously know, maybe people will not be able to win these cases and get back this money.
That's a very complicated comment for me to respond to. But under this country has its challenges. We have governance challenges, we have an uninformed consumer base. So the challenge is your money possibly could be there or could not be there. But at least, given the declaration that Bank of Uganda made ever since the law came into force, now mobile money is under their ambit. They said this 17 billion is there. It's not supposed to be in circulation, at least beyond the 7 years.
Okay.
Because they're supposed to keep it somewhere, waiting for its owner to claim it until the expiry of the 7 years. Then it can go to wherever it has to go to. But of course, given the institutional weaknesses, you will find that people do not heed what the law says, so you could find the contrary. But at least their official records indicate that the money is there. Okay. That's good enough.
Now, what I also want to understand is, did this law also apply with AfriCell?
Yes, it should, but AfriCell did not get the license.
It didn't get, because that is where I was going to ask. Now we are seeing it is exiting the Ugandan market. What is the future of people who have their money with AfriCell in that aspect? Okay, anyhow, how about if...
But even, maybe I make a point. The insolvency, the winding up of a payment systems business is again regulated by the Bank of Uganda. The same way the central bank will appoint a statutory manager or a receiver of a bank is the same way it will do for a payment system. So it's not going to go and resolve all, wind up the operations of Airtel Money in the event that the worst comes to the worst. They will go for Airtel Commerce Limited.
Oh, so now let's first talk about death rate. Let's talk about the dead, now the deceased people's accounts. In a period of 7 years, I would suggest if someone dies this year, this particular person is not going to actually go and appeal for the money. They will not go and seek for their money that is on the account. But if a family member is going back to actually go and access the deceased's money, what are the chances and what are the possibilities that this person is going to receive the money? Because I only believe that if the money does not belong to you, there's some high chances that you're not going to receive that money. But then some people do claim and say the deceased had the money and he's the breadwinner of the house and we clearly need that money. So how do people get back this money? Because it is actually becoming a problem to access money of the deceased. It is more problematic than even when you're still alive as a person.
That's true. Section 54 of the National Payment Systems Act speaks of a legal representative of the deceased. They use legal representative can claim the money. They have not given, and that's again where the regulations are lax and they are not so clear. The regulations don't go into how, but under the general legal practice, there's a methodology. If they speak of a legal representative, then two things have to happen. One, that person should know how to handle the deceased estate. For instance, he should be in position to have acquired letters of administration if the deceased is known to leave a will, or he should have if the deceased left a will, then he should have acquired the probate. Now, what you do, the procedure for getting letters of administration is just a long one. I won't go into it, but you process them because they're ordered by courts, but the process is initiated at the COW down there, the district, which is coordinated on behalf of the Administrator General. So you go through the process. Once the person who is supposed to represent the deceased and manage the estate gets either probate or letters of administration, then takes them to Bank of Uganda and claims the money. That's understood. But now all those details are not in the law. That is, the law only speaks of the legal representative of the deceased under Section 54.
And in this regard is the lawyer of the deceased. Or
the lawyer, no. It has to be legal representative. That's why I tell you why the regulations are quite silent. And that's why they have to do more thinking on these issues, because these issues they are very common. And because the law says legal representative, a legal representative for us in law, we assume it is two, of the deceased person is two, in two circumstances. He has died, he has left a will, and he has left you as an executor, and you have probate, executor of his will, and then you have got probate. from the Administrator General, or from court, sorry. Then if you're not left a will, the family has gone through a process of conducted meetings and they have appointed an administrator. So in this event, the legal representative may be two people. The executor has to, according to the will that was left by the deceased, who has probate letters, or a person who has probate that was left as an executor or an administrator, but has been given the mandate and the authority to manage the estate of the deceased. And that person is normally a trustee. Under the law, is a trustee. Doesn't own the property, but is a trustee. So he's supposed to carry it in accordance with the wishes of the beneficiaries and in the interest of the deceased. So the law speaks of a legal representative. The National Payment Systems Act and the regulations by themselves have not gone into the detail of how the deceased person can get. The law only speaks of legal representative. Okay. It was the duty of the central bank and the payment systems director in the central bank to go and make regulations to enable that further. But even the regulations will not differ so much from what is normally done in the event that someone has died and he has obligations or he has property. So you go to get a lawyer, process letters of administration. If there is no will, then that person who has been appointed the administrator of the deceased becomes the legal representative to go to the central bank and claim that money. Now, how the legal representative will claim that money, is not clear in the law.
It's not clear in the law.
It's not, even in the regulations. Now, who do you blame? The central bank. They did not think out this way and they rushed.
They just looked at the bigger picture.
The bigger picture, which the problem arises when the nitty-gritties are not resolved. That's where the problems normally come from. Because yes, you may be a legal representative and you go to the central bank and you claim the money, but there's no process, there's no procedure. There is a procedure for getting you to be recognized as a legal representative in another law, which is under the Succession Act, the deceased law somewhere, which governs the properties of the deceased. But it's another problem. It's another problem when you have that authority and you're a legal representative, and you have to come to the central bank. Would you write a letter? Would you have to go to court to order them to give you that money? But since the law speaks of a legal representative, I don't think there'll be need to go to court. But I feel if the central bank doesn't handle this issue well, it's going to create problems and it's going to create a crisis of confidence in the transactions, especially in regard to the people's money, because already, as we speak, that money has not been easily attainable, even without this law. But now the law, at least, like I said, it brings some semblance of order into chaos. Semblance of order to chaos. Semblance of order to chaos.
Well, allow me to bring you into the mobile banking situations, about the banks and mobile money transactions that take part with the banks. Most people are claiming these transactions actually that they carry out with mobile banking, with the banks that we have, the private banks we have. The charges that are actually being paid are more than what they expect from the banks, because most people choose mobile banking and mobile money transactions to ease life. But surprisingly, life is not being eased and they're losing at their expense now. It is them losing out at the end of the day because of the charges that come to it. What is your take on that?
My take to the customers out there is, before you open an account with a bank, now we also have mobile money payment systems, please read something called the key facts document of that account. It normally has the terms and conditions, the charges, the fees, it has all that. Don't just open up an account because I've given you one document, or you'll see some small terms on the sheet below. Those hidden the problem is our central bank is not very proactive with helping customers. So at some point you have these companies only respect court orders, but it's also not so easy for you to go take a company to court because you failed to understand that in their terms there was A, B, C, and D. Now the advice I will give someone is there's always documentation that you can read, or if you cannot read, then get someone to interpret it for you. Then he will actually tell you what to do. But it's important that for you to understand the hidden charges in that. And by the way, they're always disclosed. Only the banks are very confident that you have a consumer base that is not really actively reading. So they take advantage of that. And then when you wake up to complain that, oh, these hidden charges, you don't tell me, it's like, did you read this? So take your time when you're opening up an account. Because in this country, you're on your own. No one is looking out for your interests, not even the regulator so much. The regulator will only come in if it's the issue has taken widespread media attention, which is not so easy.
Because you even have to pay for the media attention.
Yes, so
anyone who will have to help you out.
Exactly. So in this country, you're on your own. Look out for yourself, get friends who understand some of these things, and they help you read the key facts document of that account. There are very many hidden charges in our accounts which are there on paper, but the banks do not want to aggressively come out. Now, the same issue with mobile money. You wonder, their rights under Section 17 of the law, of the do's and don'ts. For instance, the bank is supposed to keep something called a trust account or a special account in different banks. It's supposed to correspond to the amount of digital float or the amount of money, that electronic money they have issued to their customers. That same money that is in digital representation is supposed to be represented in physical cash in a bank somewhere. But the law says that once that money in the bank generates some interest, it's supposed to be used for the benefit of the customers. Do we even know that?
A few.
No. Even the few you talk of are very few. They don't even make 1%.
Or maybe the ones that are in the policies.
Yeah, those are the ones, people like me whose job it is to look out for these things. And even not very many lawyers know, because this is new, the law is an evolving space. So not even very many lawyers in practice know these details. There are even few, even the lawyers that know will call a friend and say, oh, can you guide me on ABC, and they have a client with this issue. So it's a new law. Like I have said, the payment system space is ever evolving. Some brief history. Gold was money. For 5,000 years, gold was money. And all paper in circulation was representing the gold somewhere in a bank. So just know that the papers that were in circulation were representing gold somewhere, but the real money was gold. So these were just IOUs. Along the way that changes, and now from the paper, you have now numbers appearing in ones and zeros, representing an equivalent of paper money somewhere.
To represent the current.
In the near future, you have now decentralized finance, blockchain. Now, it doesn't depend on financial intermediaries like banks. It doesn't. XRP is a payment system, but it also relies so much on the decentralized platform of blockchain. Now, money has evolved. In a period of 70 years, you have seen evolution that is unparalleled in the history of the humanity. And we're not so sure if these financial intermediaries like banks will retain their monopoly, or even these mobile money companies the way they are. Because now the trend is the money that is people of late that are transacting in the decentralized finance, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, that's a decentralized system. It doesn't depend on if a bank somewhere to do a payment. And under the law, if you put your money in a bank as a deposit, it becomes property of the bank, and it is a liability of the bank has to pay you. In other words, it's like a loan you have given the bank. That is how the law interprets your deposit. Under decentralized finance, that is not the concept. The money is there. It does not belong to anyone. It's just there. It's not a liability. It's not an asset. It's there. So but the law doesn't regulate those details of decentralized finance. It doesn't. But I'm trying to show you how money is evolving, and money was not always issued. And the problem we have in Africa is that since we have very many currencies that are not centralized in nature. For instance, the EU has the euro.
And it's helping out in the European market.
Exactly. In Africa, we have very many currencies that don't even have so much value in the world market. This is the danger. Companies like Facebook are also becoming increasing players in the payment space. You have something called Calibra or Libra. Amazon already has a payment system in Mexico.
Sure.
Now, the danger with us not coming together, even as the East African community, and we bring back what we had as the shilling before 1971, before the community collapsed, is that with all these currencies, it's going to become very easy, because now issuing money is not a reserve of nation states. It's going to be very easy for Facebook to come into this market, and like I have told you, 30% of you lose 30% of your value transacting over this continent. Companies like MTN will tell you that, because they operate in jurisdictions that very many, so they never transacting money, they see the problem, the value they lose. Now, if Facebook comes up with a good proposition that, you know what, we have this platform, no charges, nothing, they will actually take your currencies out of the market. They will take your Uganda shilling, they will take your rands, so they will become the de facto currency. Now, that is if we do not think widely and we do not think beyond our noses, and we think that because the Uganda shilling, we want our sovereignty, you could end up using your sovereignty to a private entity. So
do you want to say that is the same reason as to why most companies prefer using dollars than Of course. Ugandan shilling.
Of course, but remember they prefer dollars, but they have to change the dollar. They have to change the shillings to the dollars. Remember, you buy mobile money in Uganda shillings. You buy airtime in Uganda shillings. You buy airtime in Kenya shillings, Tanzania shillings, in the French, the franc thing of the West Africa, the rand. So all those resources have to be transacted to the dollar and then remitted somewhere. Now there is a problem with that. Of course, they prefer using the dollar, but what Africans should do is, how can we create a payment system space? Now, these are discussions are supposed to be at the level of COMESA, at ECOWAS. Yeah? Now, ECOWAS is coming up with something called the ECO, but still, the argument I'm trying to raise up is, we are seeing an increasing number of private players that are taking advantage of the over-regulated space that is not becoming so efficient, and they will promise you that there will be heaven on earth if you actually use our system. What do you do as the country, as the government in that area? You have to do something called forward-thinking approach of regulating the space, because it's going to change.
No, but I think, I thought the Bank of Uganda is really regulating.
They are regulating it as bureaucrats that have a colonial education, I'm sorry to say.
Then know that now you have to regulate because it is the way.
Of course, regulation is not a bad idea. We should have regulation. And I told you this regulation has brought some order to chaos. Because there was chaos, now there is order. The semblance of it.
So things are moving.
The problem arises with your local players. Are they in position to make a breakthrough under the regulatory frameworks that you have created? If not, then the job is not satisfactory. That is the argument. But on the whole, I gather and I think that it was a good move. Payments had to be regulated, especially mobile money, because now we had gaps of how do you claim the deceased's money, even consumer protection, because there was, actually if I had time to go into the details of the law, I would show you how the law creates consumer protection on the part of the companies to be more responsible. For instance, you cannot just swap airtime for and sell it as mobile, electronic money issue.
Definitely. That is the other issue I wanted to discuss about how people can swap the money, sometimes in airtime form.
No, you can buy using your electronic money, but that airtime should not be accounted for as an equivalent of electronic money you have issued.
Oh.
You shouldn't. But of course, we have a duopoly. We only have two companies that are in the that have got the license from Bank of Uganda. There are two licenses: Payment Systems Operator, Payment Systems Processor, PSP, PSO. There are two: Airtel Commerce and MTN Limited Money, something like that. Those two have the license. We have a company, MS Wave, in the regulatory sandbox. They're in the sandbox. It's supposed to be there for around 6 months. But you have very many fintechs that would have gone into the sandbox, but they couldn't. Yes, they argue that you don't need so much money to get into the sandbox, but the criteria for you to demonstrate that this is a unique innovation that is not covered for in the law is not easy. So you have to go back and compete with MTN that has 10 billion in capital requirements, 5 billion, then 1 billion. There are tiers. Then also payment as aggregators, Pegasus. They're also supposed to be regulated by this because Pegasus is an aggregator of mobile money. So they also are supposed to be regulated as such. The insolvency of how a company, payment systems company like Mobile Money Commerce, Airtel Commerce can leave the economy are also in the law. The Bank of Uganda can appoint. And then one thing I also find unfair for us in the fintech world, and I'm not going to mention the company. There's one company that came into this market by pledging its license that acquired from UCC 20 years ago. Under the new law, you're not going to get money by pledging your license as a fintech. No, a license under the law is something that you can pledge to a money lender to give you money because it's valuable. Well, there's a company that came here 20 years ago and don't have money to commence operations. What did it do? It went to the secondary loan market
and got the license.
Got a syndicated loan, pledged the license to the money lenders in London, not money lenders but the financial institutions. Then got the money. Within 2 years,
push on with the business.
Exactly. Under this new law, you cannot pledge that license even to raise financing. Okay. It's not transferable.
All right. Kakati gwenno abadde atugoberera tubadde twogera ku nsonga ya mobile money nga tusinzira ku National Payment Systems Act ya 2020 eno nga regulating ne mobile money tubadde tuyogera ku nsonga ezimu obadde okimanyi nti woba operating a mobile money account nemala emyezi 9 nga toyinaamu transactions zonna zokoze bagenda gitwalanga bagenda oba nkyogere nti bagenda gicancelling bagyeseka mu Luganda
bajja bagisazaamu
bajja gisazaamu okumala akabangalanga then bakuwa ne time frame ya myaka 7 okulaba ng'ogoberera ku nsonga eyo oba olinako ssente zo ng'oyagala zijjako ebbanga eryo lyonna bwe liggwako nga tolina ziclaiminga nga tolina ndowooza bikwogerako bimala nti zizo ziba zigenze mu period ey'emyaka 7 kyendowooza myaka 7 era kiba kikuyambyeko okuba nga ozijjeeyo oba nga olemeddeko nnyo oba nga ozeetaaga ate we ziba nga ssente zizo. And at this particular moment, I did have Mr. Louis Chizito. I will have more conversations with him off air, but Smart Means Business ends here, and we shall continue the other day coming up. And of course, coming up on Smart 24 TV, we have Yugi Tukole with Fred Makubia. So keep it, Smart 24 TV. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Smart 24, driving